Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Connecting Voices panel, a space where we go beyond policies and procedures to explore the real world challenges of creating safe and respectful workplaces. Now, when I started this panel series, my goal was simple to bring together posh practitioners, industry leaders, and frontline change makers to share their insights, confront tough questions, and inspire fresh thinking. Because when we truly listen to each other, we don't just solve problems, we prevent them. Building on the success of our pre-COVID programs on mental health and POSH, this year's Connecting Voices series is delving into various aspects of the POSH Act and beyond. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm Yamuna Chingappa. I've been working as a legal consultant for over 2 decades and currently serve as an external member on the internal committees of leading organizations and several NGOs across India. Now, over the past decade, I've handled more than 300 POSH inquiries, including deeply sensitive and complex cases, and conducted over 500 awareness sessions in English, Kannada, and Hindi. My intent is to make complex ideas accessible and to empower people to ask the right questions. Now, in our previous panels, we've explored topics like the basics of POSH and best POSH practices of organizations. In today's discussion, we're turning our focus to presiding officer challenges and successes under the POSH Act. Now, the session will explore not just the statutory responsibilities of presiding officers, but also real world dilemmas, successes, and systemic issues they face. So, let me now introduce you to our esteemed panelists. Srabona Sinha is a legal and HR professional with a BLLB degree from University Law College, Bangalore, and a postgrad certification in Human Resource Management from XLRI. This dual background equips her with both the legal acumen and the people-centric lens required to navigate complex workplace compliance and employee relations challenges. She has been instrumental in shaping and strengthening the compliance framework within organizations under the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. Just a minute, please. Excuse me. Now, over the years, she has been a part of the IC and presided over and guided around 150 POSH inquiries, handling some of the most sensitive workplace issues with fairness, empathy, and rigor. Her work encompasses internal committee governance, drafting and updating policies, conducting employee leadership sensitization sessions, and creating systems that ensure confidentiality, accountability, and trust. In addition to her responsibilities as a member of the POSH office in Sagility, she also serves as an HR business partner to the technology function, where she advises senior leadership on employee relations and drives initiatives that balance compliance with a culture of inclusivity and engagement. Srabona is deeply committed to building safer workplaces where dignity and respect are non-negotiable. Now, our other panelist is our very own Sashite, Shweta Luthra. Shweta started her career as a capital markets lawyer, which she left to follow her passion to work in the area of human rights and criminal justice. She completed her law degree from NUJS Kolkata, has an MSc in criminology and criminal justice from the University of Oxford, and a PhD from the University of Leicester. Shweta joined Sasha in 2014 as a legal consultant. At Sasha, Shweta has worked with nearly 200 organizations pan-India and has been an external member for over 400 POSH cases. She also works with schools, educating children about their rights, and helps to create modules on child safety, and is an advisor on the board of directors of UX Foundation, an NGO working in the area of gender-based violence. Welcome, both of you. As we all know, the presiding officer, or as we say, PO, plays a pivotal role in the internal committee's work under the POSH Act. Today, our panelists Srabona Sinha and Shweta Luthra bring rich experience from different sectors, and together we'll explore the responsibilities, ethical dilemmas, and best practices of a presiding officer.
Thank you, Yamuna, for the lovely introductions.
Thank you so
We
much.
can
Thank
dive
you.
into questions on the topic.
Let's begin. Uh, we'll set stage with a question for Shweta. So, Shweta, could you share what the key responsibilities of a presiding officer are and how do they differ from the other ICE members?
See, presiding officers don't get any extra vote. They don't get extra anything at all besides extra responsibilities. Now, as per the law, the presiding officer has to be a part of the quorum, which means that they have to give their time. Because they chair the committee, that also means that they are sort of the liaison between the committee and the participants, that is the complainant, respondent, witnesses. They're also the liaison between the committee and the employer. So this is the individual who is managing coordination of IC proceedings. They are forwarding proceeding sheets, statements to the parties, getting their signatures on board if there is any interim relief or when there is a final recommendation. They ensure that reports and recommendations from the committee are shared with the employer and that the employer implements it as well. So it is a role that requires a lot of work, some of it administrative, but very critical in ensuring that there's a smooth functioning and that the IC proceedings take the correct timelines to be completed.
So, Shweta, just follow up on what you just said. Um, I've seen in some of the organizations, instead of the PO handling some of these administrative works, they also have somebody, say, from the HR or an ER partner who does that, because for the presiding officer, it becomes really difficult uh, to do their job because there's someone very senior in the organization, and then also to be a part of the inquiry and then handle administrative work, right? So, can you throw some light on, what your experience has been?
Some of the larger organizations that have a lot of complaints that come in
Excuse me.
actually do involve one additional person who's also a member of the committee, but their core responsibility is sort of assisting the committee and the presiding officer in handling this management of calendars and organizing meetings, ensuring that witnesses are in the right shift so that they can appear before the committee when they're called, etc. But it is not very common.
Yeah.
In most organizations, especially the smaller organizations that don't see too many complaints, they also don't understand the level of responsibility that falls on a presiding officer's shoulders. And employers who have not experienced the inquiry process are also not very aware of how much work goes into handling these cases. I have struggled and had challenges in the past where I have reached out to employers and said, your presiding officer needs assistance. And the response is that there are so many internal committee members, let them divide up the work. Somehow it doesn't end up happening very often. So
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sravana, when you first stepped into the role of a presiding officer, um, how many years back was that?
This was around 8 years back.
Wow. Okay. So what kind of training or orientation did you receive before you stepped into this role? And do you think that was sufficient?
Um, to be very honest, I don't think there is any training per se that can actually prepare you for this role. It is a build up of experience over all these years. Yeah, organizations do give the IC members yearly orientation sessions, training sessions, which are definitely very very useful. They teach us about the law. They teach us about a few instances of cases and how to handle them from time to time. And over the years, they do accumulate to be a lot. But the real learning actually comes from actually handling a case, being a part of it, because every single case is different from the other. So every case brings a little bit of a new learning along with it, a little bit of a new, sheds a light on a new kind of a field that we probably never thought of before.
Mm.
So I don't have any specific formal training per se in this field, but over the years, from all of the different external members that I've worked with, different peers that I've worked with, different cases that I've been a part of, it has all come and put together and put together with all I know today. Um, was it sufficient? Definitely to do my role, yes. But it's always, I still have a lot to learn, and I'm sure there are so many things I still don't know. So the learning I'm sure is never going to end or never going to stop. But
Mm.
I know enough to maybe start off and run with any particular matter that comes in front of me.
So, Srubhana, since you're in the HR space, do you think when you handled issues with respect to your HR responsibilities, it kind of
Mm.
has helped you to also be a better PO? Is it something that works that way, or it does not matter?
It does. It really does help. In fact, all of the other roles that we all do as IC members, we have a secondary, or like a primary role that we to play in an organization. That really does help with our role as IC members, as a PO as well. Is because specifically for me as an HR, it helps me interact with people. It helps me understand people, builds my patience levels. I do understand where each of the employees come from, and the kind of maybe professional dilemmas they have, and maybe why they do not want to come forward, or what they have at stake. So definitely, my role as an HR also helps me understand parties better in a matter when it comes in front of me.
And as a senior employee leading an inquiry, how do you ensure neutrality and fairness when you're both a senior employee and leading an IC inquiry?
So it is a very difficult place to be in, to be very, very honest. Sometimes when you do not know the parties, it's easy because as over the years, we have understood that we start at any inquiry or looking into any matter, thinking that anything could be possible over here. We have seen situations in the past where the complainant could be right, the respondent could be right. Or so we cannot walk into a matter with a specific perception in our minds. So, firstly, we do understand that we have to walk into a certain role with a very clean mind, um, base our thoughts just upon facts, evidences that are being put in front of us, as well as witness statements, or the circumstances present over there. It does become difficult when we know the people involved, and but again, we have to separate ourselves from our other role when we come into the role of an IC, and just follow facts and leads, and it is hard, but that's how it is supposed to be.
Yeah. Thank you, Srubhana. Shweta, I have a follow-up question on what Srubhana just said. Have you been part of any inquiry where you noticed that maybe the presiding officer, maybe even the IC members, but since the focus is more on presiding officer, was not aligned to how we'd expect, you know, a PO to be? Um, any any experience?
Oh, several, Yamuna.
Yeah, I know because I've been there. So I was like, this, I would love to hear it. Yeah.
See, there are challenges that come in with presiding officers who are not very dedicated to this. Unfortunately, because many organizations don't have senior leaders who are fit to take on this role,
Yeah.
this responsibility
Excuse
is given to them. They don't volunteer for it. It seems like a burden.
me. Yeah.
And it shows during the inquiry. It shows when presiding officers are very short, when somebody is rambling on, and that happens, right? I mean, people are
Yeah.
talking about the trauma, be it the complainant, be it the respondent, even witnesses, they have the opportunity to talk about their problems, and they start rambling.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to let them go on. Of course, sometimes you do have to restrict it and bring the focus back to the topic at hand. But that empathy and kindness needs to show.
Hmm.
I've seen presiding officers who are very short and cut them off and say, "Can you please focus on what we're talking about?" Or the moment, so if we blocked an hour for a meeting, the moment an hour is done, say, "Sorry, I have another meeting," and log off without goodbye, or let's take this up again. I'm really sorry that I don't have the time to continue this discussion today. It's just I have another meeting. I need to go, or just drop a message on the Teams chat. I
Yeah.
need to go and just log off. Um, I've had presiding officers who have taken on the responsibility after the first meeting with the complainant. They say, oh, by the way, I'm on leave for the next 15 days. I will not be available. Please continue without me. Not realizing that since they are part of the quorum, we can't proceed in their
Yeah.
absence. And it is all right for a presiding officer to tell the employer that I don't have the bandwidth at this point of time,
Correct.
ask to be recused from the case, and let somebody else take on that role, at least for that case, if not permanently.
Fair. Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. And considering that the presiding officer is meant to be a woman at a senior level in the organization with the purpose of ensuring that the complainant at least feels like they have a support system, someone to talk to even outside of the inquiry, when you don't see that empathy and support during meetings,
Yeah.
it becomes harder for a complainant to have the faith that the committee is going to do something about it.
Mm. So just adding to what you said, it also frustrates the rest of the committee members because
Yes.
I'm having a certain challenge, like in one of the committees where the presiding officer says, "Yeah, yeah, I'm joining the meeting," and there are like 7, 8 of us. We join the meeting. The witness or the complainant or the respondent has joined, and there's no atapata of the presiding officer. So once it was, we rescheduled it, but this happened not once but a couple of times, and the rest of the committee said, let's just go ahead, it's okay. And we are literally begging the PO, at least log in, even if you cannot,
Mm,
talk, at least log in. So then we'll take it forward because, timelines is a constraint. 90 days is not enough uh,
right.
Absolutely.
because, yeah, everybody has the other job to do, right? And then the same presiding officer, in this particular case, she joined in after 3, 4 meetings, which she had missed. And then we'd gone ahead because in between she would log off. And we had no idea that she's logged off. We've continued the meeting. And then somewhere towards the end, I'm like, wait a minute, I do not see the PO anywhere. Keep on. So many misses. We're just lucky they're not going to court. And then she logs in after, 3, 4 meetings that she's missed. And she's like, why are you talking like this? Blah, blah, blah. And we're like, actually, if you had not missed the earlier 3 meetings,
Would
this
have
would have
known.
made sense. And then she's asking us to explain
Right.
it in this meeting in front of this witness. So it's funny now, but it is very frustrating at that point. And I understand where it's coming from because they have their day jobs
Yeah.
and she's very senior. She has a lot on her plate. But like you said, then recuse yourself. I'm sure there is somebody else. If it's a big organization, we can get, right? So yeah, funny at this point, but it wasn't. During those meetings, it definitely wasn't. None of us were laughing.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
anyways, so moving on to our next question, we'll talk about real life challenges. So, Shweta, being an external member, what are some of the challenges you faced yourself with peers during an inquiry? Like, other than what you've just said, is there
Yeah.
anything else that you think maybe you could add in a bit with IC members also?
I actually do remember one of my first cases. This is in 2016.
Hmm.
Yeah, 2016 was my first big inquiry. And the presiding officer was a senior woman, but not at a leadership role.
Okay.
And I remember the complaint was against a respondent who was a very senior leader, and they were, I think, peers. So it was not like she was reporting into him. She was very hesitant to reach out to the employer to recommend
Hmm.
the interim relief measures that the committee was asking for. Similarly, when the respondent asked for additional time or refused to respond to certain things or got aggressive, she would not, respond or take it up. And I had a conversation with her once and said that as a presiding officer, this is your role. And her response was, sure, Shweta, but I have to keep my job.
Oh,
I am
wow.
answerable to people as well. So, although presiding officers are senior women employees, that does not mean that they have the certain type of authority within the organization that actually affords them the independence required to be able to function without being influenced. I've had similar cases after that as well. I learned how to deal with them and how to support the presiding officers as well. But there have been situations where, especially when a presiding officer is not very senior in comparison to the respondent, they do face challenges in even responding to queries from the respondent when there is aggression coming up. and they come
Mm.
back to me and say that, can you help, or is it okay if we involve the employer and say that this is the kind of behavior that we're seeing and I don't know how to deal with it. So that is a challenge that needs to be remembered, that the presiding officer is also an employee of the organization and has to maintain their professional relationships.
So does it
And
help if sorry to cut in. So
no,
does
go
it
ahead.
help if the presiding officer is a senior to the respondent?
Sometimes, not always. Seniority is not the only power dynamic that plays in,
Yeah,
right? It has to be the relationship that they have with the employer. It has to be the independence of the role and how strong-minded
correct.
presiding officer is as a person.
Yeah,
People who are a little submissive, no matter how senior, may not
yeah,
be able to handle this role very well.
yeah. And a lot of people are non-confrontational, so they're not comfortable being in that position. Thank you for that. Shravona, what have been some of the most difficult dilemmas you faced as a PO during inquiries?
So there, I've been lucky actually to have very supportive IC members, supportive, like leaders in organization, and so that I really haven't faced that much of a dilemma. But like I would say challenges, yes. So, for example, some of my challenges are like when I have to assign IC members to a case. So, we're a large organization and we have to assign IC members to a case. We have multiple IC members. I need to make sure that all of the IC members that are assigned to a particular matter are completely conflict free. With either of the parties involved in that matter, because that can, even if one of the IC members know one of the parties, it could come off as there is some
Yeah,
level of bias over there,
right.
and to recognize that conflict and to ensure that I have a very balanced IC that supports a matter is definitely challenging. Also, another thing that I find, for example, I'll give you an example in this one matter that we had, that sometimes me as a PO, I understand that, a certain case is definitely a case of sexual harassment at the workplace. But the complainant does not want to pursue it as a posh complaint because of various reasons, like
Mm.
being ostracized in the team, being looked down upon, career being affected, whatever, and probably just wants an HR warning for that matter. Whereas I clearly understand that could is definitely a case of sexual harassment that is needs to be looked into. So even though it frustrates me that maybe the employee does not want to pursue it, I think my only option over there would be to actually give them all the options that they have, as if they pursue it as a posh case, how we would try to protect them, try to make sure that they're not impacted, their work is not impacted, the various options that they have in the organization. And but then at the end of the day, I have to let them take their own call. I cannot push a complainant into filing a posh complaint just because I believe it is one.
Yeah,
So that is definitely one of the major dilemmas that I have as a PO. Just like letting others choose and make their decisions, and not enforcing myself on them.
yeah. So you were saying that sometimes complainants do not want to file a complaint
Hmm.
under the POSH policy. Then
Hmm.
do you still pursue it further under your HR policies?
Absolutely. So this is not something we like to ignore at all. Unfortunately, as an IC, we do have a lot of powers, but are also bound by a lot of rules,
Yeah,
which we cannot go beyond. So when a person does not want to actually file a Kaposh complaint, we definitely hand it over to HR, because I think HR is a little more liberal that way. They can take quicker action
yeah.
under the as a misconduct or something like that. So we definitely forwarded to HR with our recommendations that it should be taken up, it should be looked into from the point of view of an HR. We do not want to let things go just like that.
Thank you. Just following up on what Shweta was discussing, with challenges with the PO, how do you handle situations where, complainant or respondent is hierarchically senior to you?
I'll be very blunt over here. I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
If a complainant or a respondent is senior to me, I step back from that case.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm sure like Shweta and I were discussing that there is a case law that says that a PO does not have to be like senior to either of the parties, hierarchically. But it sounds very nice. But at the end of the day, let's be practical about things.
Yeah.
When there are many difficulties that a PO faces when they're junior to either of the parties. Firstly, is there is a possibility. I'm not saying there is a
Yeah.
possibility of some kind of a pressure from the higher up or from the organization to bend in a certain way. Or there also is a possibility that even though if we take up a case, we have no pressure from anywhere, we take a decision, it could be perceived that a decision is not fair because we've been biased towards someone who is senior. So that is why, to avoid any kind of friction or any kind of questions being raised or towards the integrity of the IC or the integrity of the decisions of the IC, it's always better to have a clear and conflict free like internal committee. So I definitely do take a step back when there are senior folks involved.
I think that's a fantastic move on your part. Um, I remember this particular inquiry where the presiding officer herself came forward and said that I do not want to be a part of this inquiry when she realized that so and so person is a respondent. The reason being that she said that he was, a guest who stayed at my place when we had a wedding in the house. And though we are not great friends and we are peers in two different verticals, I still do not want to be pursued by the complainant as being biased towards the respondent. It's not that she knows about it, but still, from my own side, I think it's unfair. And she very gracefully stepped down. And it was very, very, ethically, it was really great. It was a fantastic a way to show how good the IC is. The other thing was we were lucky the person who came in as an acting presiding officer was technically sound and we needed someone with technical expertise for that particular case. So I think even the universe kind of worked with us. So
Right.
yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think I like what you just said. So my next question is for both of you. Maybe Shweta, you can answer this first and then followed by Shobona. Have you ever faced pressure from leadership or any other part of the organization to lean a certain way in a case? And how did you manage that while protecting the integrity of the IC? Because let's be honest, sometimes you do have to work with business. It is what it is. So how did you manage it? If you can give one or two examples, also it'd be great.
I've had a few cases that were very challenging because of this. Most of them involving senior leaders,
Yeah.
um, where taking any action against that senior leader could impact the business of the organization. In one case, this was the person who had brought in investors into a startup.
Hmm.
So the employers were very worried that if you take action against this person, what happens to our money? In one case, there was a complaint against a woman by two other women, and the complainants did not want their identities to be revealed. They knew that the respondent would find out who they are when they read the complaints. But this was a very small organization
Yeah.
where they were worried about the impact on them when the management found out, the employers found out who they were because the respondent happened to be closely related to them.
Okay.
And in both of these cases, things did get unpleasant for me because the internal committee members were also facing a lot of pressure and sort of put me in the forefront and said that, can you call out the need for neutrality and justice to
Yeah.
the employer? And I did have to speak with them. In fact, in the senior leader case, the entire internal committee quit one by one during the course of the inquiry.
Yeah.
And not the company. They resigned from the internal committee,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
citing professional issues and personal issues. One said I had a heart attack.
Oh God.
He did not.
It
But
felt like one.
it felt like one. Yeah, no, he was really pressurized, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I did write into the management to sort of explain to them that the internal committee is an independent body. It is a quasi-judicial authority. It needs to be able to function without external pressure. I don't really know what happened to the cases after we submitted our reports.
Mm.
In the case against the woman leader, the employer came back and said that we have taken legal expert opinion, external legal expert opinion, and we have been told that the committee has done an injustice by not revealing the identity of the complainants. And we ask you to do so. If you don't, the committee members will face consequences.
Yeah.
We went back as a committee and said that get us a court order and we will reveal identities. We will not do it at this point of time. All the committee members, including me as the external member, were fired.
Oh, okay.
So there is pressure, not always to this extent.
Correct.
A lot of times it is more about, there's a senior person in the organization. We need to get some kind of inkling about which way you are leaning, so that if we need to exit this person, we need to start interviewing others, because finding someone at such a senior level is very difficult for us. You sort of hold them off and say that we have not arrived at a conclusion. We are still in the middle of the inquiry and we cannot tell you which way we are leaning until we've concluded the case. Those pressures are more manageable,
Yeah.
but sometimes it does get very difficult. For us as external members, it's easier to step away from the situation. But for internal committee members and presiding officers, it's much harder because they need to continue working there.
Correct. Yeah. Actually, what you just said in the end, I had a case where one of the skip level managers was one of the witnesses who came in, and this was going against the respondent, of course. And the skip level manager gave some really good viewpoints, and it was helpful for our case. But towards the end, he was like, "So, what is your plan? Are you planning to terminate this guy? Look, you need to let me know 3 months in advance because I need to do KT." We really had to control ourselves because we're like, you want to do KT, so you're going to retain him for 3 months and get him to do KT. We're going to kick him out. If we find him guilty, we can't tell him that we found him guilty already because everything was, in place. But yeah, that was, on a lighter note. We didn't get pressurized, but like you said, there are times when we do get pressurized. I've been pressurized by the MD of a company to allow the respondent to resign. And the reason that was given was, I'm sorry, the reason that was given was that I do not want my female employees to face trauma by having to answer these questions, blah, blah, blah. I thought that argument really didn't hold. But then they went back to the complainants and said that he's going to resign. So are you okay with it? And the complainants are like, yeah, as long as he's not part of the organization, we're okay. It's not like much of a choice, really. And they closed. I mean, we did a closure report. My hands were completely tied. I mean, though I was like, scratching the walls, and there was nobody to hear me. So those are the times when you feel a little frustrated. But otherwise, overall, I think I've had some really good organizations. They're very, very strong. They're very, very POs who are really strong. Really helps the way the matter is handled. I love it when the PO is strong. And yeah, Shobona, over to you. Sorry, I can run away.
Yeah, I in my previous organization, definitely I've had, I used to work as an external member as well. So back then I have seen, organizations pressurizing, the IC to bend in a certain way, or also pressurizing the complainants and to actually, withdraw their complaint, saying that the person's going to apologize to you, the person is not going to trouble you again, reconsider your decisions and things like that when a person is senior.
Yeah.
However, in my current organization, I've been really lucky, I would say, that The environment itself is completely, we are zero tolerant to any kind of sexual harassment. Yes, IC members amongst each other, we've had a difference of opinions, which is common, and which is easily resolved by relooking at things, and like talking to people all over again, analyzing things all over again. But apart from that, I don't think I've seen any kind of pressure from the organization itself to resolve a certain matter faster, or like bend in a certain way. So that way, that would have been lucky.
That is
So
fantastic. Good to hear.
lucky. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really lovely to work um, in that environment because
Absolutely,
it gives
because
you that breathing space to
yes,
think
and
partly.
I think the IC definitely needs that kind of freedom, the kind of space to actually work on their own,
Mm.
and the independence without having the interference of leaders all the time. What is happening, or someone breathing down your neck all the time. So
Yes,
I think that is very, very important.
absolutely. Thank you. So, Shweta, when there are conflicting opinions within the IC while writing the final report or recommendations, how do you navigate consensus and still submit, a fair report?
I think these are the cases that take longer than 3 months. You have to make sure that all the committee members are on the same page. Of course, it is possible for the committee or one of the members of the committee to give a dissenting view, but I think that has happened just in the one case for me that I talked about, the business interest and the committee members resigning. Usually, it has been a situation where maybe one IC member does not agree either with the findings, or more often, while they agree on the findings, they don't agree on the recommendations.
Mm.
And that latter part is harder because we also have to reason out why we are giving a particular recommendation. So, what I think that requires is a discussion amongst the IC members. We work as a team. So, we need to be able to make sure that nobody on the IC has a blanket view that is not reasoned out.
Yeah.
So, we ask them for the reasons. Now, where it has been a situation, and this is also an issue that we have with people wearing different hats, as being employees of the organization, knowing how the business is going to be impacted if you take a certain decision, or knowing that the transferring a person is not possible because there's no other role available for that person.
Yeah.
They come back with that reason. I recently, in fact, had a situation where one of the presiding officers told me that the manager of the respondent wanted to know what action we were recommending. We had found him guilty, but we
Yeah.
hadn't yet, as a committee, decided on the action. And she kept coming back to me and saying that I need to inform the respondent's manager, with whom I have a meeting today, what action we are taking against him. Because if he is exited from the organization, then there is another person who's about to be exited because of just, redundancy. He could take up that role. So the manager does not want to have a meeting with that employee and say they're being held redundant if this person is going to go.
Yeah. Okay.
So I told her that you cannot have this conversation with the manager. She said, why not? I know the decision.
Excuse me. Yeah.
So I said, you know the decision because you're a member of the committee, not because you're the HRBP of that team.
Yeah.
So you have to keep what is happening within the committee different from what is happening outside, separate, sorry, from what is happening outside the committee.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that a lot of discussion at the time of recommendations, getting people to reason it out, but when it happens at the time of findings, if committee members are not, all of them are not convinced one way or the other, I think additional investigation and inquiry is what is needed. So if that means looking for more evidence that will convince them one way or the other, recalling certain witnesses, reanalyzing evidence, that helps. What also helps sometimes, Yamuna, I've realized, is that, see, inquiries happen over a period of time. And
Yeah.
with all the work that IC members do outside of these inquiries, even us as external members, we are handling multiple cases at one point of time. you may not be able to find a causal link between all the evidence unless you read it together.
Right.
So, what I have done in situations like this is told committee members, and let me collate all the evidence,
Mm.
summarize it for you, and share it with you. Go through it together as one document. And then let us set up a meeting and decide what you think is lacking to help you arrive at a conclusion. So, these tricks have worked in most cases, I think.
Yeah. Now I understand why it took more than 90 days.
No, absolutely. We have like multiple cases that exceed 90 days because we just can't come to a conclusion because there's a ticking time bomb over there. So I think we have to come to a right conclusion. If that means it takes us a few additional days, it does.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I've
the
been
law,
part of an inquiry, like you said, where we pretty much concluded. And then there was just that one point where we
niggling.
were, yeah, that's something not sitting right. So like you said, Shweta, I said, let me start drafting the report. Let me just
Yeah.
kind of start collating everything. And then I found this one person mentioned somewhere, and I said, maybe we need to talk to this one person. But it would overshoot the 90 days time if we spoke to that one person and we said it's okay, we'll mention that as a reason for overshooting the 90 days period, but let's do it. And we did it, and it did help. We were able to conclude the case after we met with that one person. So that was a missing link. And as an IC, I think, yes, timelines are very important, we must adhere to it, but we also have to look at the bigger picture. If
Yes.
you
Yes.
right.
need to extend beyond it for just cause, you have to, as long as you document it, of course.
Mm.
So yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much. Um, so moving on with, we're talking about inquiries and procedures. So Shweta, it's a follow-up question for you. What are some common procedural errors that especially new peers tend to make during inquiries?
I think the challenge with new POs, and Shabona rightly pointed out, this is an on-the-job learning process.
Yeah.
There is no specific training that happens for a presiding officer. There should be, but there isn't, unfortunately. And so when they're thrown into the deep end, a lot of times they try to do whatever they think is right. Challenges for me have been presiding officers going and talking to the complainant and respondent outside of committee meetings, giving
Mm.
counseling, giving advice, informing managers and the employer about what is happening in the inquiry. If there have been concerns where they believe that maybe a respondent is overstepping their bounds by talking about the case to others, it's something that we need to deal with. If the complainant comes back and says, "Oh, this is the interim relief I want. This person is looking at me in a threatening way while I'm at work," the law allows them to go on leave. These days, the more common interim relief is allowing one of them to work from home, usually the complainant. But interim relief has to come at the request of the complainant. But I have had presiding officers and even internal committee members who have said, "Oh, I know the manager of the complainant respondent really well. I'll just go and talk to them and let them know." So just last month, this happened in a case where we were, the client was based out of Pune. And myself and the presiding officer were based out of Bangalore. So we connected virtually, whereas the other committee members were with the complainant in an office meeting room. And when the complainant said this, the male IC member said, "Oh, I know the respondent's manager really well. Let me go and make sure his shift is changed." And he got up and he walked out. And we're trying to call him to say that, no, this is not as per process. And he got rather offended, because we had to call it out. And that's where things also become very delicate for us. With senior leaders being part of the committee, you have to balance their egos also, where they are so used to taking decisions,
Yeah.
they're so used to executing decisions, and they know the leadership, they know the employer. They don't appreciate the importance of following the procedure under the sexual harassment law in their policy when it would be faster to simply have a conversation with someone.
I think it also comes from the fact that these are all senior managers, and generally, managers, I think they're genetically coded to catch the bull by the bull, catch the bull by its horn and resolve the issue.
Yeah,
So that 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 thing of holding back and then
yeah,
sitting and watching things unfold, I think that's a difficult task for them,
yeah, yeah,
right?
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
So,
I think it takes a
yeah.
few cases for presiding officers to start understanding why this process is important, especially at
Yeah.
the time when we issue the findings report. That is when looking at the process, looking at the actions, respondents who are found guilty
Hmm.
come back and try to poke holes into the process.
Right.
They can't challenge the findings because there's evidence, but they can challenge procedures. And that is the learning process for internal committee members, that it's to avoid those sort of concerns that we need to follow these procedures.
Thank you. Thank you, Shweta. Um, See, I personally faced non-availability of PO during work due to work constraints, affecting timelines of the proceedings. And, so the question for you, Subhona, is being a senior leader in the organization, you have work commitments too. So, how do you ensure timely completion of inquiries and quality documentation despite other work responsibilities?
It's actually very simple, Yamuna. It is just breaking it down into small bits. If we let something pile and then try to tackle it, it's a bigger mess that you have to clean up, and your job is going to be sloppy. The outcome is going to be sloppy. So, as an IC member, we really need to set aside some time in our day for the matters in hand. And it does not need to be a lot of time either. It could be an hour or a maximum of 2 hours in a day that we just focus towards this part of our role. And if we wrap up things on a day-to-day basis, keep just follow the cases, follow the procedures, and see what's pending in each of the cases on a day-to-day basis, just a few minutes each matter at hand, and take that one step that is needed to be taken every day a little bit. It just becomes much easier to handle, rather than like not giving it time throughout the week because I've had a busy week, and then finally, like after 2 weeks of time, trying to tackle the whole thing at once. I wouldn't say that I myself have not been in that position, because sometimes we obviously are. It's not, you can't be that strict with yourself all the time.
Yeah.
But I've seen that, my output is much better when I break my work down into small bits. So I think as a PO, we really need to take out that time, that little bit of time every day, just to, to just see what's happening, and take
Hmm.
that one or two small steps that we need to on a regular basis.
Wonderful answer. Thanks, Subhana.
I can also
Yeah.
attest to this, having worked with so many different presiding officers. It is far easier to work with Shabona because she is very reliable and takes accountability
Yeah.
for the process. Many a time, and that is the issue with the internal committee.
Yeah.
Presiding officer is in a way a leader of the committee.
Yeah.
But where they don't take the accountability, nobody else in the committee feels comfortable to follow up with the presiding officer about, have you sent out this email, or have you received this piece of evidence, or can you check with this witness? With nobody else following up with them, things do get delayed if they are
Yeah.
not disciplined. And putting everything together where you're ending up spending 5, 6 hours at one point of time is hard for them. So, where
Right.
you have this sustained um, way of working regularly, I think that really helps get the process done quickly.
Thank you. Thank you, Shweta. So, beyond compliance, the PO also holds space for people in distress. So, Shobona, how do you create a safe space for the complainant to respond during hearings? Like, what do you have any tricks up your sleeves for that?
Main thing is, I think a lot of us always make a mistake is that we try to be really strict with them. We try to portray a very formal front with them, which actually scares individuals because they're already scared when they
Yeah.
come into the meeting with us. It's hard to understand how sensitive that matter is unless we are in those shoes. So they are already very, very anxious, and the formal front that we have, um, you know, deepens the anxiety. So the
Yeah.
first thing is that we always do is greet them in a friendly manner with a smile, and introduce ourselves, and like tell them that it's not a very serious thing that we're going to be discussing now. Yes, they have to be honest, they have to be upfront with us about everything, but at the end of the day, like we need to tell them that we are just having a conversation with them at this point. We have not come to any particular decisions, and each and every one of them will be given enough opportunity to be heard before we make come to any decision or conclusion. So it's not that when a respondent walks into the thing, they're already guilty in our eyes. We consider them to be not guilty till the time they're proven to be guilty. So we have to get that point across to them, and
Mm.
honestly just be there for them from time to time, just to give them updates of what is happening in the thing. Because sometimes what happens is when we go radio silent, they also get very anxious about that. They don't know what's happening in their case. We've had one meeting with them and then we've become silent about the whole matter. So communicating with them, letting them reach out to you when they have a doubt or they have a question or they need an update on what is happening is actually really helps, soften the blow or soften the entire process for the thing. It's still not soft, definitely not. It's one of the hardest processes to go through, but it just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Thank you. Very insightful. Shweta, you want to add something to this?
Yeah, no, I think approachability of a presiding officer is very important. I recently had a case where the presiding officer was the one who was very busy and used to keep dropping off from calls and had not really responded to a lot of approaches from the complainant. So after the first couple of weeks, the complainant stopped approaching her.
Yeah.
We reached the end of the inquiry and it took us a full 3 months. And we sent out the findings report. And no, we sent out the witness statements for cross examination. The complainant came back completely shocked, saying that now I understand why my team members have been behaving so differently to me. I did
Mm.
not realize that you were calling witnesses. I had expected the committee to close this out with just a verbal warning. And we called her back for a meeting and we said that we have an email from you saying we had spoken to you about the possibility of conciliation and whether we just wanted to resolve the issue or if you wanted us to conduct an inquiry, and you came back and you said that you want the committee to conduct an inquiry. And she said, I did not understand the process. And I tried reaching out to the presiding officer and I did not get a response. And we realized that a case that could have been closed because it was a minor infraction. They were very close friends, where at an office party, things got a little more flirtatious and she just wanted to set her boundaries with him.
Yeah.
Ended up becoming a case that involved all of their colleagues, with everybody talking about, look how nice they look when they're with each other. But now we find out what's
And now
happening in the
we,
background.
yeah. So now it's a
The
circus.
creation of a hostile work environment happened because of the inquiry. It
Yeah.
did not happen because of the incident, which was just between the two individuals, and the respondent did not even deny the allegations. He simply said that it's being misinterpreted. I
Yeah.
have not touched her in an inappropriate way. She was also coming on to me. And because he said that I did not touch her in an inappropriate way and she asked for an inquiry, we had to go ahead and check if anybody else had noticed her discomfort.
Yeah.
So I really feel that that approachability, being there to listen to complainants and respondents during the course of the inquiry, becomes very important to give the right direction to the process as well. We don't have to go from point A to point B. There are lots of things in between that need to be done correctly as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Shweta. Um, Shrubhana, can you share any moment where your role as a presiding officer made a significant positive impact on someone involved in a case?
So I feel like in a, I wouldn't say in a particular case, but I will talk about the general employees in our organization. When we make ourselves approachable, like just borrowing from Shweta's last answer, we make ourselves approachable, we make ourselves visible out there. It really puts faith in the employees to come forward and actually talk to you about things. So we've done awareness sessions, and we've done training sessions where employees see us. They're like, oh, okay, I have attended your training session over here, and you said this. So that gave me the courage to come forward and file this complaint, and this is the issue that I'm facing. Or I was a part of your floor walk when you came onto the floor and you spoke to all of us. You just had a good chat with us, a quick chat, introduced yourself. It puts a face to the name, because there are posters everywhere which tells this is your
Yeah.
IC member, so and so, you can contact this so and so in this way. But it makes a huge difference when they actually put a face to that name, and they see that you are someone who is approachable, someone that they can come and talk to about their problems. So I think that way, I feel in our organization we have been able to open up that channel for people to come forward and bring their problems to us, or bring their concerns to us, without feeling that, okay, fine, it's not going to be addressed, or I'm not sure who's going to be looking into that matter. So I think that is one of my big wins here, and as a PO or an IC member.
Wonderful. It's really nice to know that not all organizations do this, but when you do these flow walks, it allows the employees to know who their IC members are, who the PO is, and like you rightly said, it makes you more approachable, and they know that, okay, you know what, if I have an issue, this is the person I can go to. So a
Right.
lot of organizations do not understand that it's barely 5 to 10 minutes of
Exactly.
do it once in say a month or so. It still makes a huge difference for the employees and for the organization as a whole. Thank you for that. Shweta, you've been part of the local committee at Delhi. Anything you would like to share regarding the way it functions, and especially with respect to the chairperson's role? Anything that you noticed that you'd like to share with us?
It is terrible. During my tenure of 3 years, two chairpersons left the local committee because of the challenges that they were facing.
Wow.
Now, within an organization, you have the employer to go to if a party to an inquiry does not appear despite being summoned, or if they refuse to sign the statements, or if interim relief measures are not being implemented, if
Mm.
police needs to be involved. For local committees, these are all external members, most of them volunteer social workers, who choose to take on this role. And while the nodal officer, the district officer, are the employers or supposed to be fulfilling the responsibility of the employers, they don't. Either
Mm.
because they're not aware of it or they don't take it seriously. Um, the awareness amongst government departments is still quite low, specifically with respect to functionality of the local committee. So they would come back to the chairperson and say, you're the chairperson, you have the power of a civil code, you do it. But the people that we were dealing with were employers of companies.
Yeah.
How do you summon the employer of a company as a respondent and ensure that they come? How do we call witnesses who work with that employer and
Yeah.
say that come and talk about your employer to us?
Right.
What incentive do they have and what action can we take against them if they don't turn up? So this was very challenging for them, the
It's
amount of
really
coordination.
intimidating, right, for an employee to be called and say, "Hey, there's a complaint against your MD. Come
Yeah,
here as a witness."
come in as a witness.
I mean, they're going to turn hostile the moment they read that.
Exactly. On top of which, a lot of other responsibilities were given to the chairperson. They had to actually print out summons and post them themselves because they had no support. So they're like, the amount of money that I have spent on registered post and printouts, I'm spending hours doing this.
Yeah.
What's the incentive? So two chairpersons quit. By the time the third person came on, I myself quit.
Okay, this is just sad. Yeah, I'm just hoping that things get better, because I know a lot of companies, the way the IC functions has definitely changed. It's
Yeah.
definitely better. I'm hoping that that happens even with the LCs. Yeah, I'm sure it'll take time, because generally when the government bodies, they do take time. But yeah, I'm hoping we're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So on that positive note, Swoboda, what have been your biggest learnings or growth areas as a presiding officer?
So I think it's a mixture of everything that we've already spoken about. Firstly, is definitely maintaining a conflict-free committee, and which is, it sounds like an easy thing to do, but it really isn't. Firstly, that, and like, and I think the biggest learning here for me is patience, because we have no idea, like, how much patience is actually required to go through the entire inquiry process and not blow up sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I was just telling Shweta earlier in the day that, when I first started working as an IC, or as a PO, there were so many things, people, we know it's wrong. As IC members, we know that they're not making sense, or it's probably nonsense. But and I used to make me angry, very angry at that point in time, and I used to be like, what is this? What is this happening? But with time, we realize that, you really have to be patient, even with that, even though you know that it is probably all just a waste of time. But because even through that, even through all of the nonsense that they may have spewed, there is some important points that may have come out as well. So
Right.
having the patience to actually go through the whole process, listen to everything and not just zone out, listen to everything so that you can filter out that one bit of usable information, is something that I've learned. And I think over the years, the amount of patience that I've had has increased drastically. And I think that's the biggest learning that I have as an IC member or a PO.
Thanks, Rubona. Um, we've come to pretty much the end of today's discussion. So to close this section, Shweta, what advice would you give to someone who's newly appointed as a presiding officer?
A few things. Firstly, be willing to take out time for this. It is hard work. It is difficult work. It is emotionally draining. If you are not willing to take on the role, it's okay to say no. But if you take it on, do it with integrity, do it with heart, and also put in the effort to learn the procedures. Although several external members are experienced and are able to guide internal committees and presiding officers, we are outside of the organization and not the first points of contact for complainants, respondents, or witnesses. If presiding officers are not aware of the procedures, a lot of biases can happen. They should be okay to ask for help, even if it means, I have a query from a witness. Can you help respond to it? Can we meet as a committee to discuss it? You are not an individual. The reason why you have a committee is because it is your support system who can help you as well. Also, there is no hierarchy as such within an internal committee, but again, the presiding officer is meant to be the chair. Presiding officers should feel comfortable assigning roles to other internal committee members as well, instead of taking on the entire load themselves. The other committee members are not bodies who just sit in the meetings. They are people who should be able to support you, to set up meetings, to follow up on statements not being signed, to review reports, liaise with the manager, ask for that help, and ensure that every committee member knows their roles right at the beginning of an inquiry. And if not in the beginning, then even during the course of the inquiry.
Yeah. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I thought, wow, she was right on dot. So,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm going to quickly sum up at least some takeaways from today's discussion, which has been very, very interesting. Thank you, both of you. Shrubona mentioned that our primary role in the organization does help one role as PO, understanding people, having patience, and so on. She also mentioned that space and independence is needed for an IC to work fairly, and the employer should facilitate that. These are things that actually resonated with me. And then we spoke about, how do you handle your work and your role as a PO. And she put it beautifully, saying that breaking it down into small bits for a PO to spend time on an inquiry, follow procedures and cases on a day to day manner so that it does not build up over a period of time. Thank you so much for that, Subhana. A very, very, very deep points. Thanks so much. And then, Shweta, you spoke about how the PO's role is PO gets extra responsibility. It was one line, but it really summed up pretty much what the role of a PO is. You also spoke about challenges of a new PO, how they went ahead and met with our respondent and complainant outside proceedings, discussing the case with other managers and so on, and how it is important that they learn to maintain those boundaries. And then, of course, your insightful advice to new POs is to do this role with heart and integrity, and to put in the effort to learn. I think that's really very, very important for new POs. And they should be okay to ask for help. I think that's another thing, especially as senior leaders. Ask for help may be something that they are uncomfortable with. Be comfortable assigning roles to other IC members. So, really, really insightful discussion today. Thank you so much. I thank our panelists for the time and expertise and all the participants for joining this important conversation. Today, we've heard about the key responsibilities of a presiding officer, the ethical challenges and procedural pitfalls, and how to create a safe and fair process for all parties. For everyone listening, the role of a presiding officer is both a legal duty and a human responsibility. With the right training, support systems, and personal integrity, it can also be deeply rewarding. I hope you'll join us for our fifth Connecting Voice panel discussion in the future, where we'll keep pushing the boundaries of what safe and inclusive workplaces can be. With that, we come to our session today. I don't know if we have questions. We can look at it quickly. I know we've overshot time, but
There was one question that I have responded to. I'm not sure if
what a
there are
citation.
questions.
Okay. I think that's about it. Okay. Thank you, Shweta. You've already responded to that. If anybody has any questions going forward, please feel free to write to us. You can write to anybody in Sasha India, and we'll be more than happy to take up your questions. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Yamuna, for
Thank you for
organizing
Yeah.
this and fantastic questions.
Thank you so
and
much.
thank you for having me, Yamuna. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Shobana, it's an absolute pleasure having you and Shweta here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Yamuna.
Thank you.